Camera's rolling.
Maybe I'm too young to know any better, but I guess I'm just too old to care. I'm waiting on the morning light to clear the air. Now the sky is hung with regrets, letting go that you pay flags. All the silence that keep me coming back. I'm the one that you hated. You know, the one you didn't want to believe. The one that you hated. Take a look at it now. I'm the mess you created. The one that you hated. Mother Baker said, bury your secret. And your gold and souls are black. You get the love with all your footsteps running back. I'm the one that you hated. You know, the one you didn't want to believe. The one that you hated. Take a look at it now. I'm the mess you created.
Right here, subscribe. That's right, hey guys. Get the Dad Talk going. Yeah. What do you got there? All right, I had to get to the solo. Everybody, what's going on? Welcome back to Dad Talk. This is part 2, and this part's live. Okay, since I'm going out of town next week, I've been having to pre-record a lot of the shows, and I didn't realize. Oh man, dude, I've been a little depressed not being able to come on live and be able to speak one-on-one with you guys. I try to think of what I'm going to talk about ahead of time. But this is the way I love to do it, because I can see what's going on in your heart. We can talk about it and we can get it out. I'm not gonna lie. That last show kind of depressed me. In this movement, doing what we're doing right here, there is a lot of peaks. There is a lot of valleys, man. I come on Monday, sound like a Pentecostal preacher, energy. Next day, sound like a Baptist or Methodist preacher, can barely speak. You know, right before I recorded that show, I got another article that had been sent to me. About another child that lost their life due to a mom, you know, and every time those things come in, guys, it messes with me. It definitely messes with me. We report on it as good as we can, but if you could see the way some people react to this, they can see a child or a father losing their life and they can just completely look over it. Like, nothing to see here, you know, why are you reporting on this? This isn't true. It's not as bad as you say it is. And not even acknowledge, I'm sorry for that kid. I'm sorry for that dad that had to go through this. This world has lost a lot of empathy, guys. And so trying to strategize inside of this, get some type of answers, it can be really difficult sometimes. There's people that just don't care. I mean, they really don't. But that doesn't let us stop what we're doing here. We have to continue going. But I have actually no clue what I'm going to talk about on here. I see everybody. Paul, what's going on? Father X, Rob, Sabrina, what's going on? AACS. I hope that doesn't stand for child support. But guys, how are you doing? Ask me anything. I'm just going to come live for a little bit. Speak about whatever we want to speak about. Trying to get prepared, mentally prepared for this coming up next week. What's going on, Ricardo? You guys ready for a little bit of dads? Boys. Men. And let's bring some masculinity in here. Katie, what is going on? Said doing schoolwork and listening. Awesome. Awesome. Okay, always affordable computer support. Gotcha. I'm glad that wasn't child support. Guys, can you do me a favor? If you are on here, can you like, share, and subscribe? Every time you do that, you help the feed get out there more. Many ways you can support the show down there at the bottom. I'm not even going to go through it. If you watch the show, and most of you have been here all week, you know how to do so. But like I said, just trying to get a little mentally prepared. We've already got some messages, people hearing that we were going to be out of town. Can we meet up, guys? We are booked solid for 2 weeks. We got no time to do anything outside of that. There's 3 different stories, 2 where very young kids lost their lives, 1 where a father took himself out. And we got to go sit down with the family and ask them the questions. Some of the hardest questions you can ever ask somebody. You know, what was going through your head? What do you think was going through their head? Is there anything that could have been done different? Where did the system fail? And bringing up these very dark moments, right? It's rough. It really is rough, but the world needs to hear it. Janet Lieberman Schultz, what is going on? Here to support dads who deserve shared custody of their children. Thank you, Janet. Thank you for being here. Preston, what is going on? Candy Ballard, got some new faces in here. Mr. Saul, what's going on, guys? But yes, you know, a lot of these guys should have that shared custody, Janet. Unfortunately, they don't. And I guess, you know, the thing that just keeps getting stronger and stronger in my head, the more that I think about this current battle, this current system, the way it's set up is the trap that it really is for fathers. It doesn't matter how much money you got. It doesn't matter how good of a case that you've got. Sometimes you can beat it. And every once in a while, we hear from those guys, right? I beat it so everybody else can too. Thank you, Mr. Genius, who thinks your case speaks for everybody else out there. Those are people that don't know what it's like to live in anybody else's life or to think of anything in the world outside of themselves. For many of these guys going into that system, it is a trap. And it is meant to make money. You know, that's why I speak on the paternity fraud issue a lot. Because I think that's the one that really makes people sit back and like, what in the hell is going on? You know that this is not the father. He has proved to you this. You can see where he was set up, but we say that he's still got to pay child support for a kid that's not his. Now he's not even able to see the kid. And instead of going and trying to find the biological father or looking at mom and saying, shame on you for making him think that, we're just still going to say it's on the man, right? There are still a lot of people that think what we're doing here is division and that there is no bias. There's no gender bias. There is no challenges inside of the family court. And those people have just got to be blind. Aha, Paul, trigger words. You want to hear the trigger words? Men, boys, masculinity, dads, fathers, gender bias. Dude, it really makes me wonder the people that will show up for that and say that there's no gender bias. It really does. And you want to be nice to them, but these aren't people that listen to anything that you've got to say, especially in this movement. It's just about, I don't want it to be true. So if the conversation doesn't give me, they're looking, talk about no bias, they're looking for a confirmation bias. What I say is true. No matter what these guys have went through, this is the way it's got to be. And I still try to tell, a lot of the times it's going to be ladies that this is going through. And I'll tell you, they don't even realize the gender bias against men is what has made it so hard for the very few women that are going through it. Because men are not supposed to win custody. So if you got a case where you actually got screwed over and you're a woman, you're going to be looked at as trash, unfortunately, because how in the world did you lose custody to a dad? And you don't realize every time that you say there's not a bias, how that goes back really against you. It does. Let me get back into here. What is going on? You guys, give me some questions, man. Give me some questions. I want to hear from you. I'm on here for you guys and wanting to hear what you say. Want to say, you know, I think that last show was just to really kind of like pull back the curtains and say, this is the challenges that I see this movement facing and what it's going to take for us to get there. I even saw some more of the comment. And look, I'm not going to throw off on you if you're one of the ones that say this, but I'm going to tell you, stop this crap. They'll say it's never going to happen. The system's never going to change. The only way to, fix this is to not go into it in the first place. I do not believe that, guys. I do not believe that at all. It is waiting on us to change it. And we have got to change people who have been stuck in that mindset. I understand how you've got there. Do you think there have been many times that I wanted to take this microphone off and say, it's just never going to happen? I feel you. I've been there. But we say that dads are important and they're needed and how special they are. But we don't think that these dads can get together and go after these bastards and change this system. Don't tell me that dads are important and that dads matter and that dads can do great things. But when it comes to this right here, that we're stuck in the corner and that we can't fight this, that's the kind of stuff I don't understand, man. That's why the high energy sometimes. It's looking at that guy that's gave up hope and saying, come on, brother. Come on, McFly. McFly. I've been using that a lot here lately. It's one of my favorite movies of all times. I love that. Cowboy Crypto. He said, I got my partial custody because I'm one of the lucky men in a state where father's rights are protected when they aren't really protected. I lost partial custody of false allegations. Cowboy, tell me, what state is it that you are in? I would like to hear about that. Janet said, I honestly didn't believe that the family court was so fraudulent and biased until I saw my own family member go through it and witness the bias myself. Let me ask you though, Janet, is there anything that we could have said here that would have made you understand that until you saw somebody going through it? And that is the problem. People don't see it until they are the ones going through it. Right before I come on here, guys, and you know what? I got to give it to the guy. You'll see him on here sometime soon. You know how anti-politics I am. But that doesn't mean I wasn't in that political arena. We were there. We were doing everything we could, right? But there was a guy that was winning his campaign like by a very, very big margin. The only way that they could make him lose is they went and stirred up something in the family courts, false allegations and everything, and made it get so bad within the media that he broke down and he left his campaign. This guy was winning. Now he's one of us. He's going through this. And since the campaign is over, they are still on him like white on rice. And, you know, during the time that this was going on, I was talking to him back and forth in some text saying, brother, you need to go public with it. You need to go public with it. And let me talk to any of the politicians or the candidates that are going to end up, they still believe in this movement. They want to go, they want to fight this. Then they get in there and some family law or some allegations start coming up. I watched this. I worked on one campaign early on, and the only reason I worked on that campaign is it was a guy that was promising solutions behind the family court, and I do believe he meant it. At the same time, about a month before the election, they went and did this press conference, started calling him a domestic violence abuser. Oh, he ain't got his kids and all this, and just brought those smears out. That day, when the election happened, every poll that we went to, there was somebody standing out there with signs calling him a domestic violence abuser, a wife beater, deadbeat dad, the whole 9 yards, everywhere. And I sat back as I listened. I wasn't the campaign manager, but I was doing some of the social media, and I was a consultant. And I remember when this went down, I said, dude, you got to face it. You need to go out there because this is what you're fighting behind. You can turn this pain into purpose. You can turn that around if you face it and look it dead on and say, this is exactly why I'm running, and this is what I want to do. What did the campaign team say? Oh, don't mention it. Don't mention it. It's the silver bullet, man. If any of you guys are going to run for office, you got to know that anything you say and or do will be used against you. In politics, has little to do with the solutions and the ideas that you're wanting to bring forth. If they can't beat you on your ideas and what you stand for, they are going to try to assassinate your character. Is that any different than the family courts? If they can't beat you because you've got evidence against them, maybe they was cheating, maybe they wasn't taking care of the kids, or what have you, you can't beat them that way. So let me bring in some false allegations and let me smear their character. It's very effective. We see it become effective every day. You guys don't run from that. I want you to plant your feet down in the ground, say, ask me anything you want. I'm an open book, and you face it head on. And you can, when those challenges come at you, use them to your advantage. Don't hide from it. It's crazy, man, how people will use anything in your life to just try to completely assassinate you. Jason said Mike Whitney's girlfriend, as he mentioned in the previous podcast, and Lisa also didn't believe the family courts were so bad at first. I think it is also why when we start out in this process, we want people to hear our stories, because it is so unfathomably horrible. I do agree with that, Jason. It is one of my number one challenges, because I know we got the podcast. I know we tell stories on here. But guys, I haven't even done 0.5% of the people that are asking, I got to tell my story. I got to tell my story. I'm not saying your story is not important, but your story is but one story. Remember what I said. We represent millions. I dare say billions. But if we're so big, if we come together and just say, this is all of our stories, and we show what's going on in the system, because they play the same tricks, that's where it's going to happen. I understand the passion comes from what you went through. But that, again, is also the challenge. Many people aren't talking about it until they see that they are now going through it, or they got a family member that's going through it. And then that's what inspires them to get in there and do this. You can't run away from that, guys. You can't run away from this overall movement. I have seen people, they'll make new organizations, new shows and everything rather than working with the ones that are beside us. You know, one of the things that I'm wanting to do, I've got some different people I'm talking to right now. I want to see other leaders elevated, more voices going out there, such as this stranger right here, Mr. Dr. Brooks McKenzie. He said, family law attorneys and lobbies help these groups because they use them to keep everything the same. These groups lack the ability to see that they are being used. Here is another strong voice, great researcher. Thank you for your hard work, Brooks. But I tell you, man, we are asking the abusers to stop the abuse in this legislative arena. We are. They 100% know what's going on. And if we keep doing the same things, I don't know what the definition of that is in the DSM-5, but I'll tell you, I think it's insanity. We've got to start coming together. We've got to, man. Pissed off parent, Mr. Dwayne. The issue is that when people tell their horrible story to people that have been involved, it's like the kid who works part-time going to someone who works all the time saying their job is the worst. That's a good analogy, man. That's a good analogy, because you know what? As much as I say your stories are common, usually the tagline that comes at the beginning and the end is the same. I've got one of the worst stories you've ever heard. I believe it can change the family courts. Yeah, it's going to be one of the worst stories. The fact is, guys, when you got dads that are being murdered at these custody exchanges, when you got these kids that are losing their lives, I don't know how it gets much worse than that. And there is no shortage of those. There is no shortage of those whatsoever. And we can't see past our own stories. It was one of the main reasons you guys have heard more of my personal story in the last 3 or 4 months than I have done in the last 3 or 4 years. Because I wanted to make sure people knew I wasn't just doing this for me. Am I doing this for me? Yeah, I'm doing it for my family. I'm doing it for the future generation. But is that what drives me to get on here and do what I'm doing right now? I'm not here today to tell you my story. I'm here today to say, guys, we need you. And I know that sounds crazy. I can only imagine somebody from the outside that's not in this, movement, doesn't know what we're talking about. Then every show they get on here, we need you. You are the answer. You are this and everything. But, and I get it. Probably looks crazy. But for those of you that have been in here, you've seen the lack of movement, how slow this thing is really going. You understand what I'm saying. And it's going to take people like you, because you know what's going on. When we get people on the outside, we have to educate them little by little, right? And I think that is another challenge too. The advocates I've seen, especially when I used to go march the Capitals and they finally get a meeting with their legislators, they finally get a meeting with that guy. This is how much I spent in my divorce. This is how much I'm getting to see my kids. My ex did this, and this. And that person's sitting there exhausted, like, when is this conversation going to end? Now, legislator's not your counselor. They hear stories all the time. There's many different issues going on. You got to work on the way that it's being said. And then seeing an actual organized group of many saying this is all of our stories and we're asking you to get a solution. That's when you look like a voting group. That's when you look like you got people behind it. And then that's when they start paying attention, right? Unfortunately, right now, if we had millions of dollars to go at these guys and hire our own lobbyists and put into these campaigns, it would fly by night, dude. They are going to lose too much money in order to represent us, right? I say the same thing. I'm going to get into the controversial area. I don't believe that. You remember earlier this week when I was telling everybody, say, we can do this. I go look at that energy back from this past Monday and all of the guys saying, we can do this. We can organize. Look, dude, we can't take that system down. They seem big. I know they got control. I know they got money, but they are but a few. You guys aren't dreaming big enough. And you know what? If you don't think it's ever going to happen, you're right. You're right. Why even talk about it? Why? Just to tell people not to go in the system anymore? Guys, man, wake up and get in here. How do you think this world was built? That's what I was talking about earlier this week. How do you think that White House was built? How do you think those roads out there that you're driving on was this? We've helped make the world go around, and we can't do this? Bull crap, man. We need some vision back in here, guys. We do. Piss off. Until the millions rise up and demand the change, collectively come together and demand they change, or they're not getting voted back in, rallies, discussions, etc. They do nothing. Dude. No, again, I know it sounds like a broken record, but going back and talking to the person that first comes in here, they're thinking Martin Luther King, Black Lives Matter, whatever. They're thinking these big rallies. And they have this idea. I just went through it again earlier this week. A guy was like, we could be all talk, but we got to get some action. We need to get in here and we need to start doing rallies. I was like, okay, then do it. He said, I have the ideas. I've got the solution. I'm like, okay, then do it. If you can do it, man, I'll give you 5. I'll be proud of you. But I know better, because we can barely get our people to show up online and speak. So many people have been defeated. And if you're defeated, that's fine. But I'm not going to sit here and look, I realize some of the steps that I took early on, messing around with the legislation, some of these other people, how much wasted breath, how much wasted resources and stuff like that. And yeah, it's easy to feel defeated. I could put my head between my legs and just walk on away. But I still believe it can happen, man. I still believe it can happen. And it's going to be rough. It's going to be rough, man. It is rough. It is rough. But I am not going to be that guy that stands over somebody's casket or have one of those families that come in there saying, I want justice. This system's got to change, and look at them and say, it's never going to change. Sucks sometimes that in the meantime, right now, you're very limited on what can happen. But just seeing what's going on, look, it took 2 years. We've got this coming. We've got this coming with John Mast and his family. And I appreciate everybody that's ever put any work behind this movement, the things they do. Guys, it's Friday. I know we're doing better than this. Come on. I mean, look at that right there. You see that? That's some of the bull crap that we're facing. And when people see that, they think that something's wrong with this movement or that people aren't tuning in. I can show you the stats. We've reached millions of people over the past couple of weeks. What happens when these feeds start going? Facebook is in one of the worst shapes that it's been in years. It looks like some of these shows aren't doing good. What it is, there's not as many people here. They lost 2/3 of their profit last year. Almost 2/3. They're hurting. The kids went to a different platform, but at the same time, the censorship that goes on behind these issues, don't let that trick you into thinking that there isn't millions of people out there ready to get behind this. I've seen it, but what I need, again, when I ask you guys to like, share, and subscribe, you fight back at this bull crap right here. You see this? Look at it. You fight back at that bull crap right there. I need you to like, share, subscribe. Make sure you ding that bell so you get the notifications of when we're going live. I could easily look at some of that bull crap when it's going on. Done. Hell no, man. That's not the way I roll. Sabrina, thank you for all you do for Dad Talk today. I appreciate your support. Eric needs guys he can count on and call on to fill and give him what he needs in the background. I mean, Sabrina, that's true. I have no shortage of people telling me what I need to do. I have no shortage of ideas coming in. I have no shortage of unrealistic expectations that can be put on one guy, on one show. What I have the shortage of is the people that say that being willing to do it themselves. That's not to shame anybody that's listening. I'm giving you the seriousness behind this. And just to show like how many people are just interested in that one personal story, what they've got going on. Dude, like I said, hundreds of messages. They come in every single day. I want to be on the show. I want to do this. People I never see here. Like, where is your involvement in the movement outside of thinking your story is the only one that matters or that's going to create change? I don't understand that mindset, guys. I really don't. You want to know why this movement's never gotten anywhere? Because of the movement. There is none. There is a lack of belief. There's a lack of organization. There is a lack of funding. There is a lack of support. And if somebody else starts actually getting some momentum, they will find some way to make people think that that's not right because they aren't the ones that's doing it. It's very real. And trust me, what I'm telling you is very real. And we've got to overcome that, guys. Even you ones out there that might not believe quite in the message what we're doing now, I'm glad you're here. Let's find a way to restore that faith. That has been one of my biggest challenges, is restoring that faith back in somebody that this can happen. You know what it's like when you're on the other side of the telephone or in one of those messages where somebody has it figured out that they don't want to be here anymore. And I'm going to tell you the ones that scare me. Again, I was talking about this on the last episode. The ones that don't talk much, the ones that are just completely shut out. They've got their mind made up. It is one of the hardest things you'll do. How do I make this guy understand that giving up is not an option? You know, I mean, we could always justify why we want to give up or why we want to quit or why the battle is the way it is. You know where the strength is? What was the name of that last show? Success takes showing up even when you don't feel like you want to. It took me everything I had to get on the microphone to do that. And it shows. I know that the lack of passion was there, but damn it, I showed up. Even now, I was laying on the couch trying to watch this show, no energy whatsoever. And I said, Man, how am I going to say that and not live by it? Damn it, I'm about to get on that microphone. We're going to go live and we're going to turn that pain into purpose. I was ready. Just hang it up. Don't want to talk about it today. But talking to that person that thinks that nothing is going to happen. If you go back, I think it was about a month ago, one of the people that comes to mind when I bring up that subject is the one makes $250,000 a year, brings home $25 a paycheck after child support and alimony. If you could have heard the distress this gentleman was in when he called me, this was very early in on Dad Talk. Dude, there is no reason for me to be here. It's not going to change. There's no solutions. Like, I'm done. I'm done. Yes, there is, dude. You got to stay in there. No, there's not. I look at what I'm making. I can't afford to live on this. And you know what? Even me trying to be that encouragement on the other side of that screen, it was like, what do I say to this guy? Because if I step back and I look at it, I'd be looking at myself saying I was screwed too, man. $25 a paycheck, yet I'm making $250,000 a year, and they're only letting me see the kids every so often. X is living off of that child support, got a new man in there calling him daddy, and anytime I go to the family courts and say, look, you've based this off of something that I don't have, they don't listen. And then I got to pay money in order for it to be looked at. This guy felt like he had met a dead end, guys. And it was one of those almost impossible situations to reach into that phone and say, dude, stay on in here. But you heard him about a month ago. We've had about 3 years pass since that conversation. Happiest I ever seen him. I don't hear that attitude or any of that anymore. He's still in here. He's still fighting behind it. Got a good relationship with his kids. It took a while. But that's the power of being able to encourage people, even if sometimes we might not see it ourselves, right? There's power in making sure that we encourage people. I see too much discouraging going on, especially on social media, dude. Social media has just turned into a cesspool. How often do you see people in the comments that have no idea who in the hell a person is, what's going on in their daily life, never spend a day with them in their life, that will become their mortal enemy just because they disagree on something? That is the world we live in, dude. And you know, how bad is that? How often do you see people communicating face to face anymore, or even sitting there talking to somebody without having this up? This has taken over a lot of people's lives. It really has. And then that's what we do. If I don't agree with you, it's gotta become that clash. No, it doesn't. No, it doesn't. If we can become that movement that encourages people, that's not saying not to call out the freaking corruption. You know, at the same time, think about it from what it's like on the outside looking in. Somebody that hasn't been through the family courts, that doesn't have a family member that's been through that. What does it look like to them? Again, I talk about my friend earlier this week. Known him my whole life, man. He knows what I'm doing, knows my story and everything, supportive of it. But he's like, man, I just got to be honest with you. If it's on the outside looking in, it does look sexist. I was like, it does? I ain't get mad. I was like, why? He's like, well, you know, I know a lot of dads that aren't good. And it was the same old, right? I had to sit back, tell my story through his eyes, just for him to be able to realize. He's like, that's BS, man. That's BS. That ain't ever going to happen to me. I was like, well, it happened to me. It happened to a lot of those guys too. So let me ask you a question. If that was your situation and they were in there calling it out, would that look sexist? No. There you go. There you go. We've got enough challenges with being able to say the message the way it needs to be said already. Encourage the guys that are going to get out there and willing to do it. Because let me tell you something. They are going to go through a battle in being able to speak about this. I know I'm one of the Lone Rangers, unpopular guys because I speak so much about dads on here. And I could give a flip less. If you don't like it, stay in your own corner. Do whatever it is you want to do. If you want to make people feel comfortable, tell them that it's happening just as much on the other side and that there's no bias. If that makes you feel better, if you think that you're going to be more liked and well received because you do that, maybe you get more donations, more followers than you have at it, man. But when I came on here, it was because I knew what it was like to be a dad going through the situation I was going through for no other reason than being a dad, than being a male. I'll be damned if I'm going to do anything else but dad talk, man. You guys have been forgotten in too many places. In too many places. Don't forget yourself, man. You'll know what it's like to be down in those pits of despair. What could you have said to you in those moments to say, damn, thank you. Yes, I do want to get in here. I do want to get involved. Then freaking do it right now. Do you see somebody down in the comments that's going through those situations? Inspire them. Burmender. And thank you, Jason, Sabrina, Wayne, Paul, Cowboy. I'm glad you're here, man. We might have disagreed. It was respectfully. Okay, it's okay. And I know I get a little heated when I talk about it, but I'm not taking that on you. I'm glad you're bringing it up because we get that a lot, and it's got to be touched on. But Burnmender said, honestly, I was going to leave social media, and then my divorce happened. I found the best support online, so that's why I stayed, and I try to help other guys now, especially during the holidays. I need some help too at times. The past couple of months were rough. Jason, can I tell you something, brother? I do too. We all do. And I guess it's not in a man's DNA to say, I need help. I need help. But we can also get stuck there. There's some things we can solve on our own if we change our attitudes and we change that thing that says I can't. If we start saying I can, remember that conversation from the other day? Again, you guys aren't dreaming big enough. You've lost your vision. How many people in here can actually say they believe that this movement can happen? You're not just saying it to say it, because I do believe it can happen. I do. But I will tell you the other side of that, Jason. Be careful with that with social media. You could be having a good day. Come in there. There's some stranger that doesn't like the way you look, doesn't like what you posted. Something's going on. It really could be jealousy because it looks like you're doing okay in your life and you're doing okay, but misery loves company. I got to find some way to bring you back down, and it can change your whole day. You know what? One of the most powerful things you guys are going to have to learn, and I'm learning this more as time goes by. I'm a lot better now than I used to be. I'm not all the way there, but it a gaff. I don't give a what you say about me. I'm going to be me. You're going to need that nowadays. No matter how good you are at what you do, no matter how many people you're helping, no matter what goes on, misery loves company. And social media is full of people that, if you see who they are online, no wonder nobody wants anything to do with them in person, right? But they'll try to rub that off on you. Be careful in how you consume it. If there's somebody that's constantly, every time you say something, there to just completely put you down, why are you allowing them inside of your life? Now, I'm not talking about trying to create an echo chamber. There's a difference in being able to talk to somebody, disagree, debate, and stuff like that. But these people that are there and they're just not going to listen to anything you got to say because you're you. Why are you allowing that in your life, man? And there's a lot of that on social media. In this particular movement, I'd say the alienators are right in here in these groups too, disguised as the victim, because they are always the victim. And so as much as I believe that online can be very advantageous, because look, man, we're getting this message out right now. Jason, Wayne, Sabrina, Cowboy, Father X, Paul, all you guys, I wouldn't know any of you if it wasn't for this. We are connecting. There's advantages to it. There is those disadvantages. There are those people inside the groups. They will always be the victim. I take back. All right. So how many people knows the story of John Master, right? Dude, Ricardo. People will base it on the here and now. You remember me talking about how I used to judge my father's ministry due to how many people was there. And then when he died, I didn't see the legacy that man left behind. We're planting seeds. We're planting seeds. Every day that goes by and we can inspire somebody to get in here and get involved. That's what it's about, man. You never know. The future leader that could knock this thing out of the park could be watching here one day. And if he takes off and he makes it to the finish line, then I done my part. And I'm hoping that day shows up. I don't want it to be me. But thank you. Thank you. I forgot what I was saying. Paul said Jordan Peterson nailed it. Trolls are demonic. Oh, trolls. Oh, yeah. Yeah. I mean, dude, it's people that just got nothing better to do. I was watching when I had the Transformed Wife's husband on. I have never had my page, especially my personal page, trolled as bad as it was that day. There's people that can't stand her because she talks about how the evil of feminism and being a good wife and everything, the nuclear family, does it from a Christian perspective. I'll be the first one to tell you, do I agree with everything? No, I don't. But I applaud Lori for doing what she's doing. Boy, she does it. She does it good, and she doesn't let them back her up. But I was seeing some of those trolls, that just anything that she puts, any comment or whatever, they're just there all day long, but doing nothing but in the comments. And I looked at a couple of the pages and stuff, and I'm like, really? I mean, these are people that have nothing else better to do. Makes them feel like they have power, and that's gaslighting. You got the people that say anything they want to about you. And then what's the saying again? I didn't come up with it, but I quote it all the time because it's true. You wrestle with pigs, you both get dirty, and the pig likes it. So when they get you excited and you reply to it, they keep doing it because you're giving them what they want. Because if they didn't do that, they wouldn't be getting any attention, right? Just like a kid with ADHD. Why does a kid with ADHD get in trouble so much? Well, I don't think it's because they just want to get in trouble. It doesn't matter if it's good attention or if it's bad attention. They just want attention. And what you do is you're feeding people, attention and letting them get involved in your life when they should have nothing to do with it, man. Make sure you're in the real world much more than you are in the social media world. I will be the first one to tell you some of the highs and lows that I experience with this when I just feel like I'm burnt out is because I'm on social media too much. In order to fight for this movement, we got Instagram, we got Facebook, we got YouTube, we got the TikTok, we got the Twitter, and then I've got all these other platforms that people might not know about. And I see the trash nonstop online, and it starts giving you a real jaded view of what's going on in the world. And there has been times where I'm like, dude, I just want to lay this down and not look at it. At the same time, if you're going to run a platform, you got to run a platform. That's another reason I'm wanting to grow this and get some resources so I can get more people involved. I finally got 2 secretaries that are handling most of the social media. I still have to overlook it and see what's going on, but they are completely tapped and we need more. And I've warned them, like when you see this in the comments, I'll have them call me every once in a while. This person said this or this. My mom is actually helping. And it was kind of sad to see her. The other day she called me and was like, Eric, you got somebody that's thinking about, they're down in the comments saying they need you. Those are some of the worst comments that you can get, guys. At the same time, there is people with so little hope out there. They've been broken and beaten down so much. They're just coming on here and saying you are important, you matter. This is what's going on in the system. You are not alone. We are here to support you. And then you get the comments and the messages that come in. The only reason that I'm still alive or on this earth is because of this show. That's a powerful moment, man. And the last thing I want is one of those guys coming in here and then seeing something in the comments saying, oh, it never happened. No, man. Encourage, guys. Encourage. There's going to be enough places. It's going to be hard to keep encouragement in people when every time they turn around, if they're online or, facing something in this world, there's somebody there to beat them back down. And that's learning that Itagath, I don't give a, you know what? It's definitely going to be needed, but it's going to take these guys refining their vision, finding out what it is they want in life, believing in themselves, getting themselves healthy, and getting involved here so that we can be the best versions of ourselves. That's when we'll be able to fight. We are trying to fight with a bunch of wounded warriors. Could you imagine if we tried to fight a war when we do go to war and we send all of the wounded people and then we leave all the healthy people over here? That's what we're doing with this. You got a bunch of people that have been wounded. They're not healed. And we're saying, yeah, go out there and fight it. And we're wondering why they're emotionally vomiting on people. And the movement just has that image. It's because we've put the wounded warriors on the front lines. And it's time to pull them on back a little bit. Give them some encouragement. Reestablish faith so that we can get out there on the front lines. That can be easier said than done. It's constantly trying to reaffirm to people, because I remember those dark moments sitting in that room when I was going through it. And dude, I don't know that anything was registering in my head. All I knew is I can't do anything anymore. I feel like it's over, I come back years later. I still got my troubles. I'm working through it and I'm fighting it every day, but I found a wife, beautiful, loves me, supports me, actually loves the fact that I'm Mr. Dad Talk and doing what I'm doing. She was proud that I had vision and I wanted to work towards something and I didn't go after the status quo, and supports me in doing it. It's not one of those that I'm turning around, you spend too much time doing this. It's like, no, I'm proud of you. You're working hard. You need that type of person in your life, man. If you get that type of person in your life that will invest in you, that will see that vision, that will encourage you, it goes a long way. Now, I go back. If I would have been with anybody in the past, they wouldn't have seen the vision towards this. It would have been constantly, why are you messing around with this? You need to get a real job. You need to do this. You need to do this. I would have looked away from my vision because I didn't have the support. But because now I have the support, I can get on here and do it every day, right? And when I'm broken and beaten down, I got somebody wanting to help me back up. And that's what I want to do with you guys too, man. I want to see you get back up. What is it that you're going through today? Talk to me in the comments, man. I told you I was coming here. I know I'm flapping off at the gums while I'm chewing my gum. Because I'm just trying to keep the conversation going. But I want to hear from you guys. What are some of the challenges that you're going through today that you feel comfortable talking about? For any of the guys that feel like it's never going to happen, can you tell me why? For any of the ones that think it can happen, can you tell me why? Where would you like to be involved? What's your vision? Maybe it's got nothing to do with the whole family law subject. Just a vision that you've lost. Something that you want to refine. I want to hear from you. I want to hear from you. Ask me anything. No questions off the table. Unless, well, maybe some. I keep my private life private. Paul, how many men's abuse centers compared to women's centers? This is true. Men don't speak about it. I want to say, Dwayne, I see you down there in the comments. I want to say like 1 or 3, maybe in the United States versus thousands of women's abuse centers. I've known men that have went to some of those centers and been turned away with their kid because they were men. because they were afraid like it would have a negative effect on the ladies. There is more money coming in right now. If you go to Google and search up VAWA grants, Violence Against Women Act, there's millions and millions and millions of dollars for more of these centers to be established every year. But men get turned down because they're men. Let me ask you something, guys. I'm not the legal guy. I'm not the guy to go get lawsuits and stuff. But why hasn't a lawsuit been taken out against some of this stuff? Is that not sexist? Is turning you down because of your gender, is that not sexist? Especially in a generation where they think you can be anything you want to be. How can you turn somebody down based upon their gender? When you say I'm non-binary, maybe that's what you got to do. Next time you need help, maybe show up to one of those. I'm non-binary. Would they help you then? If that's not sexist, I don't know what is. Is there not a clear discrimination in the courts with the bias and everything that's going on? Sabrina said, am I correct in thinking there is one in Canada and only one, maybe two in the US? It's somewhere in there. There's like 2 men's thousands. I've heard like 1 to 3 at the most. But yeah. So how many times have I dreamed of pizza? Well, lately it's been on my mind. I'm going to tell you guys. It's another reason for like the energy crash and stuff. I'm on a diet. Been working out more than I ever have in my life. That's how I start my day. That's just to get away from here and invest time into this guy, you know, and it's been very healthy. Now, and definitely you guys that aren't doing that, why not? Dude, you got to take care of the car. You got to take care of the engine. If not, it's going to go out. Make sure you're taking care of it. At the same time, my biggest weakness, just like kryptonite is to Clark Kent, pepperoni and sausage pizza, stuffed crust, thin crust, deep dish. It is my kryptonite. I love everything about it. I could eat it for breakfast, lunch, supper. I don't know what it is. I just love pizza, man. I love pizza. That was one thing they'll never be able to say about this organization. These guys go around eating steak and high on the hog. Like, man, when I had to turn in my receipts year before last, I probably had over 100 different pizza receipts from where I had to go across the country and eat. It was every night, you know. I love it. I love everything about pizza. There's nothing bad. And if you don't like pizza, that's your first red flag. That's your first red flag towards somebody. Father X, I know we can beat Goliath. Wish we could do offline collaboration, a few of us, to have real talks about the path to success, tactical strategies. I know you guys are busy. Dude, and there is nothing stopping you guys. When it comes to what I'm doing with Dad Talk, I am literally tapped. Just from that last one that was pre-recorded, as soon as I got off the show, there was multiple emails. I heard you're going to be in Detroit. I heard you're going to be in Colorado. You know, let's meet up. We don't have time, guys. Tapped. It is hard enough to find time to come on and do the podcast. Now, there is some other people out there, but I'll tell you, one of the biggest problems, and this doesn't have to be towards Dad Talk, but you got to have the funding in order to be able to organize. When I talk about like the Violence Against Women's Act and the domestic violence centers, literally millions and millions of dollars to create these resources that exclude men. Where are we at? With every page that I've got, I've been promoting this. Everything I've got, man. We're at $4,500 right there for the John Mass fundraiser. And that's where I've been putting all of my attention right now. All of my attention. How many people would I be able to take to DC on an airplane with hotels, even if I'm going as cheap as I can, airplanes, hotels, rental cars or Ubers, having to eat every night, even if it was just pizza? And then what if we needed resources or like things to do, signs and different stuff like this? This is the reality, guys. Now, I'm proud of that 4,500. Don't get me wrong. There was a $1,000 donation that came offline, went straight to the family. As you can see, this has been set up. Eric Carroll is organizing this fundraiser on behalf of Betty Troyer. That is John's sister that was with him in the parking lot when he got shot. All of your donations are going straight to the Mass family. But this is it, guys. I've done everything I can to get the amount that you see there. The goal is 50,000. And I'm going to tell you that is a drop in the bucket to fight a case like that. But that's just on this one thing. Funding. I mean, there's so much focus on wanting to be the voice or my organization and stuff like that, rather than saying, okay, what do we do for like fundraisers, you know? And my thing is, that's not where my heart is. I hate doing that part. It's the part of it I hate the most. It's also what's held me back. Really is. It's held me back from being able to do more. But at the same time, I wish some of you guys would get together and run that part. You guys want to see what we're spending on? You know, one thing you can say about Dad Talk. Year before last, 43 states. Do you know how many airplanes this butt was on? Do you know how many rental cars and pizza and everything else I had to eat? You saw where my resources was going. I was in there in the capitals. I told people to show up and march those capitals with us. We had the cameras right on them legislators having those conversations, right? You saw where it was going. At the end of that year, I had $100 left in my name, dude, not knowing how I was going to buy a Christmas for my family or anything. And that is not to make anybody feel sorry for me or anything. Woe is me. I chose to do that. At the same time, how many are willing to risk that type of situation in order to fight for this movement? It is going to be an ugly battle. I was talking to numerous elders of this movement, ones that were here way before me, decades. And asking them what the issue was. One, people still going in the political arena, finding out that both sides are just as connected on it and not wanting to do anything. But the other part of it was funding. You know, this lady, one of the biggest voices behind shared parenting, is like, man, I worked months and months and months behind this, drive that I had, or this conference. And I think like 70 fathers ended up showing up. She's like, we passed around the plate. You know, I had to rent a room, had to get, all kinds of stuff. She was like, there was $4 and some change that was left in there. And I'm going to tell you, once the passion's there and you're ready to go, but then your worry starts becoming, how am I going to continue doing this? How am I going to pay the bills? I got to go put more time into my job. You can't have people that is as passionate behind this as it needs to be. We literally need a full-time team of many fighting behind this. VAWA's got it. Violence Against Women's Act, they've got it. We don't. And at the same time, you need to do this. You need to do this. There is no shortage of ideas, guys. But we need some people getting the resources with the solution. It's not just to have a meeting to say, hey, this is my idea. Go find the funding. And when you have the things to pull it off with, that's when we need to talk. Right? It really is. As of right now, it's just trying to get out the awareness. Katie said, I just found an article published in July 2017 saying more are opening, but the results for domestic violence shelters for men all pull women's DV shelters. Specifically for men, there's not. Now, let me say, I don't know if I'm allowed to say this. I'll just leave their name out of it. I do know that there was a domestic violence shelter up in Washington State that recently, in the past year or so, added in their mission statement that they were there for men as well. Day and night for months, from what I was told, their voicemails was going nuts of people making threats and just leaving voicemails of hatred because they wanted to add men to that. If you go to these domestic violence shelters and you go to their website and it says, we are here to protect women and children, much like Mr. Jeff Leach there in the state of Texas, when he said, holding fathers responsible, we are here to hold fathers responsible so that we can protect women and children. It's always says to protect women and children. And say you are somebody that is in need of that service. It's got to be hard enough as a man to say, I need help, because guys really struggle with saying that they need help. They will do without, they'll do without food, they'll do without shelter, they'll do without many things before they'll actually go to somebody and say, I need help. But what happens when that is the last solution that they have left and they got to go ask for help? And then they get on this website and it says, we're here to protect women and children, and you're not even mentioned. Can you answer me down here? How many of you would feel safe going to a place like that? If that's what you saw on the website and that was the mission statement, how many of you would feel safe going to there? I wouldn't. Dwayne, on average, how many times have you had to hold off on a family commitment to get on the phone, fly to location to help one of the folks impacted by all this stuff? That question hurts, man. Because it's one of those, you're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't. You got a parent that's lost their life. You got somebody that's in trouble. You got something important that's going on, but your child's got a dance or something that night, wants you to see them in their dress, wants you to share that moment with them that you'll never get back. Which way do you turn, Dwayne? There's been many times. And you know what? I sit down with the kids. I can show them what's going on. I've even, I'm not trying to bring it up to them. There's been times like, well, here's the article. This is the father that I'm going to help. And I love them. They understand what I'm doing. At the same time, it's like, I don't care about that. I want my dad. And nobody can empathize with that more than me, because I went through it with my dad being a pastor. There was many times I would come home from school, would have loved to have played ball or done something with my dad, and he was out helping somebody. I know he might have been trying to help somebody bury a family member or somebody that was in distress or something, but as a kid, I didn't understand that. I just wanted my dad. I wanted that time, right? Now, as I'm older, I understand what was going on, but as a kid, I didn't. And so there's a lot of guilt there. But sacrifices, I'm leaving for 2 weeks come Monday. I want you to think about that every other weekend, guys, when you get to see your kids and you feel like all that stuff has changed. You know how many times I've had to do that through this movement? Sometimes going for 3 weeks, sometimes almost going for a month, and then I have to come home. So much has changed. I get to talk to him on FaceTime for maybe 5 minutes. There was many nights I didn't even get to do FaceTime at all because I'm in different time zones and the times weren't matching up. It sucks, man. It sucks. So I want you to understand why it maybe feels like somebody spitting in your face when you say, I don't believe this can happen. It can happen. You're crapping on those sacrifices. And I'm not the only one that's done that, dude. I mean, Garza, Melissa Isaac, Cheryl, all the people, Jeff Morgan, dude, his family has sacrificed so much. That guy's gone every night to a different conference, filming something. There is many guys that do this. And, thank you. Thank you for all of the advocates that have done that. There is a lot of sacrifice that goes behind this. But I want you to think of what that's saying to these people that make that sacrifice. If you can make that sacrifice and join them and become stronger, and if we had more people, maybe if somebody had a family commitment, they could tag in one of their brothers and say, man, I trust you. Go and do that. I got to be here for my family right now. We don't have that right now. It sucks. It sucks. I'm working on it, though. Part of that being gone for 2 weeks. Got some aces up my sleeve. I'll just leave it there. We'll see what happens. In the meantime, I still got to come on. I want to do this every day. Make sure that we're growing this thing. You know, if everybody actually did that, you know, that invite 10 people challenge and we showed up every day and watched how this movement can take, you know, it does, again, feel like a broken record. But it's waiting. Maybe one day it's going to catch on. You know, the hardest thing I see with this movement is like today. We got a decent amount of people watching. I appreciate you guys for being here. But let a John Mass situation or a Chad Reed situation or something like that happen. Justina Valva, Save Sophie, you know, one of these well-known cases, the numbers will go ridiculous in the middle of the turmoil. Oh, there's got to be change. There's got to be change. We got to do this. We got to rally. Here's the GoFundMe's. Here's it. And then it goes away until the next news cycle. Man, that ticks me off. It's like, in that meantime, when we're struggling to get it going, where did you guys go? Even if you get some results in one of those cases, the next one is on its way. You realize that, right? The next one is on its way. Right now, the next custody exchange situation, it might happen right now as we're speaking. There is another one coming. There is another child that the system is going to fill, CPS, where the parents had said, this is what's going on. It is going to happen. And it could be something that affects one of us. Oh, I say again, John Mass was somebody down here in the comments, guys. One of the guys down here in the comments, he was just a viewer, listening to similar conversations as I'm doing right now. And 2 months later, I no longer have him here. We lost an advocate. But who would have knew that was going to be John's situation? Trust me, I have beat myself up over that so many times, saying, what could we have done different? And I know there's nothing. With what we did, everything we could, okay? But we're still fighting. We're still standing. You see that GoFundMe. Help me get that thing out there. But you never know when it's going to happen. I was just waking up, needing to go use the bathroom that morning when I checked my phone and found out about him getting killed. Do you know how happy he was to get to the parking lot that night, guys? To see his kids, to get that alone time, to get that custody that he had fought for years. Do you know how happy he was? Much like Ted Bush, man. The last time I was out on one of my long trips, I got a message from him and I didn't get to catch it. And I didn't know until I got back he passed away. It's the same thing with John. When he found out he was going to be able to see the kids, he sent me a message and I hearted it. I let him know I seen it, but I didn't get to say anything else. And you know how that's haunted me? But he was so excited, guys. It just seemed like a normal thing. I got over it. I won my case. We see stuff like that on here all the time. I finally won, guys. Imagine thinking you finally got to that moment. And then when you show up, it's the last time you'll ever be on this earth. That's how quick this reality can happen. We don't need to be waiting until the next news cycle. And I can't say I don't believe it's going to happen. I'm not going to sit there and listen to these stories that are coming in and say I'm not going to do my part. There is no way. Wendy, she said, my son went to do an exchange for his child. The child's mother assaulted him. He called the police. They refused to come out and even take a report, though there was a parking lot full of witnesses. So he drove to the police station to make a report and file charges, and they laughed at him and refused to file charges, ignoring the physical marks all over him. When does he got pictures? Is there a report? They refused to file charges. They had to make a report, I would think. But let me ask you a question. He said he was assaulted, called, they didn't come, and then even went to the police station. Had it been him that assaulted her, how fast would the cops have been there? There I go. I'm creating division again. I'm talking about this bias that doesn't really exist. Bull crap. If that had been him that assaulted her, how quick would those police officers been in that freaking parking lot, guys? Answer me. We know. We know. Why would they laugh? It's just not looked at as serious. Dwayne, when did you make the connection that our legislators are not in it for us? It took a while, man. It took me giving everything I got behind it, going to almost every capital, doing all these political conferences, seeing what was really going through their mind, having the conversations. And I'm going to tell you, in the beginning, I was fugabooed. They would tell you what you want to hear. They're called a politician for a reason. They will make you think. We're here for you. I'm here. I'm your you got to tell them, why is one of the reasons why when the movement, if you've been told to go and talk to your legislators, one of the first things they're going to tell you to say is let them know, hey, I'm your constituent. That's how you get a conversation with them. Well, why is that? Because they think if you can give them a vote or if there's something in it for them, that's the only way they want to talk to you. That's one of the first things you're told. I'm your constituent. But it was going and having those conversations and like sacrificing everything, dude. I think being invited to a political supper with somebody very, very powerful, former president. I'm only one of 12 invited, and my ticket was going to be $100,000 to eat supper that night. Imagine that. Who's got the money to spend $100,000 on a filet mignon? And I don't care how good the dessert or the supper is, just to be able to sit at the table with some political power. Politics is about money. And if you got money and you can dress up, you show up, you take the pictures, they know that you got money. When you show up, you become a constant face, you get invited more because you're looked at as important. But for the normal citizens like me and you, the ones who make this world go round, going and having those conversations, watching these families tell these legislators about their families being murdered, kids being lost, grandkids, and no action on the back end. It took me a while. It did. It took me a while, Dwayne. But I'd say last year it really started clicking. I'm going to tell you, I was successful in it. Go look at my record. You show me anybody else in this movement that got to as many legislators as we did with Dad Talk. I ain't ever seen it. It's crazy, man. And I'm going to tell you, a lot of them, we showed up at those capitals, guys, no plans. They didn't know we was coming. I blindsided them. I did it on purpose because I knew what I was fighting for. I didn't have to practice. Nebraska or Maine or wherever, we'd show up, knock on the door. Can I help you? Yeah. I was wondering if I can talk to Senator so-and-so. What's this about? Family issues. I didn't say divorce or anything. Just the importance of family. Then when I would get the conversation, we'd sit down and talk. But it took me going and seeing it for myself and the lack of involvement to realize, and I think there has been some states that's passed some of these laws, so that's what keeps people going. I want you to understand a lot of those states did not have a big lobbying arm to get that through in the state of Texas, Georgia, Florida. Look, shared parenting's been vetoed 3 times in the state of Florida. Do you know how powerful the bar is there? Do you know how powerful the Family Law Foundation and these lobbyists are? And it took me seeing just how much money influences politics to look in the mirror and say, all that, man, it was a learning experience, but it got you nowhere. And that sucks. Because I could have made a career out of that if I'd have wanted to. At any point in time, I could have said, look, family law, dad talk, it's a movement with no resources, lack of people that believe it can happen and everything. Let's just go make a political show. Politics do good. No, I'm still here with you guys. And I said, you know what? We're going to have to get crazy. We're going to have to dare to be different. We're going to have to get on this microphone, have the conversations that haven't been had before, peel back the curtains, let you, the viewer, know what's going on. I'm taking things that used to go on behind the scenes, the things you're not supposed to say, the politics behind the movement. I've taken those and said, here it is. I want you to hear it. And one of the things that gets me the most is, again, don't talk about dads. Don't talk about dads. Don't make it a dad's issue. Don't talk about men because they don't have no sympathy for that. Are you kidding me? Again, I just think back. Tell Martin Luther King not to speak about black people and expect to get equality. You want us to not speak about dads and try to sneak in something that's going to be in their favor? It's ludicrous, man. Ludicrous, guys. And I know there's going to be people that think I'm looking down on them, organizations and different stuff. No, you know what? Another thing is, like, for some of the attorneys, I want you to understand, there might have been some people that really thought they were going to get in there and make a difference, got involved in family law, became an attorney. They got in here. They see what's going on with the system. But if I speak up against the system, guess what that does? I spent 7 years in school learning this. If that system goes away, you're messing with my livelihood. So how many attorneys are you going to see actively get involved or want you to speak about the corruption? Very little. I'd say the same thing with experts. Do you know what some of these expert witnesses, $15,000, $20,000, $30,000 every time they work on a case? You expect them to go and try to change that legislation? Where's their money going to come from afterwards? Same thing with the politicians. Many of them are attorneys. Where's their money going to come from if they clean up this system? So how is it going to change? It's going to be the ones that don't have that special interest to protect, i.e. me and you, that are going to have to change the system. You're going to have to overcome the obstacles of fighting the narrative. You're going to have to overcome the obstacles of not having the resources. You're going to have to overcome the obstacles of the smear campaigns that are going to come. Because if they can't debate research, the only thing they can do is put you down. You're going to have to debate many things because that system, remember, Smeagol, the precious, every time you get closer to Mordor, Smeagol gets mad. There's going to be every little attack there can be against you. That was a long answer. I'm sorry, Dwayne. I'm trying to give in detail. What I already know is going to happen, So, yeah, last year was one of the hardest things I ever had to look myself in the mirror and admit. Yeah. Magnus I'm so happy for this group and all these messages that you guys deliver. I have been abused psychologically by my ex for 4 years, and she also harasses my oldest son for 4 years, not giving him food when I was at work. You guys give me strength to keep fighting for my children. Bless you all. Thanks, man. Little stuff like that gives me strength to keep doing what I'm doing here. You can tell that one little pre-recorded broadcast, I was feeling pretty beat up. We're talking about protecting babies here, man. Parents. Can you see the toll it's taken on me? It shouldn't be this hard. The message we are saying here is common sense. It should not be this hard. But it's the hardest thing I've ever done in my life. Chas Bronson said there is a core of people who are so overwhelmed actively fighting their own cases at the edge of complete ruination that we cannot take on anymore. I understand that, dude. But Chaz, that doesn't hold. And I'm glad you're here. Thank you for being here. That's why I say if we can organize here, maybe you're saying you're tapped out and I'm working and I can't do showing up, like, sharing, subscribing, inviting 10 people that can makes all the difference in the world. We got to start looking at what we can do and stop worrying about what we can't. If we start doing the things that we can, and everybody did a little bit, 750,000 followers almost between all the social media channels right now with Dad Talk. Could you imagine if every one of them did that 10-person challenge and even one person showed up out of each challenge that went on? What if every one of those guys donated 50 cents or $1? It takes, and that's the thing. In order to raise $750,000 for one person, he would have to raise $750,000. But if he took 750,000 people and asked them to give $1, everybody doing a little bit created what? We are trying to fight without enough people. So maybe you might be in the thick of it right now, but just showing up and doing those things, which you did show up today. Thank you. Do you guys want people on the front lines fighting for you? Do you? We need you guys on behind the scenes that's having to take care of your stuff, helping us do this. It's heavy, man. It's heavy. You might not be able to lift the whole thing or carry it, but just every arm that starts picking up on that weight makes it so much easier. But I understand? Yes, I do. Chaz, I could say the same thing, though. I could go become that statistic. I still got my battle to fight, man. I've been fighting it for years. I will not let that hold me back from getting on here and having my vision. Guys, get some vision. You don't know what you're capable of until you get down there and you do it. He said, I actually called Women in Need and tried to get assistance. Even the legal assistance groups are tied to Women in Need. Nope, nothing. I do, trust me. I get it. I definitely get it. Sabrina, sucks fighting for the right for fathers to be dads while sacrificing your own time being a dad. Fellow dads, can you feel his pain? Dude. Okay. Let me just do it honest. Yes, it does. Yes, it does. It does. There's been many times I've had to fight for Dad Talk instead of just going in and watching a movie. I want to show you something else so you know what it's like working on a murder case or a case where a 5-year-old drinks mom's bong water, has a heart attack, something like that. Turning off this camera, then going to a child around the same age and sitting down and saying, let's watch a Disney movie. There's been times I'm looking at that screen, I can hear it, but there is nothing coming in, dude, because the only thing on my mind is, what do we do? What do we do? You know? We need a think tank. And at the same time, dude, I used to try to answer all the messages and stuff. I'd end up getting on the phone and people wanting to tell me their stories and their court docs and stuff like that. And it'd be a 4 or 5 hour thing. I need to get on the show. There, dude, like, there's times that if I'm trying to sell a car or something so I can make some money outside of the movement so I can continue sitting here, people act like they got interest in some of the things I'm doing outside of the movement just to get me on the phone and bog me down with their case. It sucks, dude. I mean, that's just, you get used in that way too. Like Anyway. I'm reading through your comments. And that was, that was another thing too. Like, I see a lot of people saying that they're wanting to help and stuff like that. I get it. But I don't know how to tell you to get involved. Everybody, like I said, you've got different talents. It's finding your vision. What can you be good at? What can you do? I had nobody to tell me to start Dad Talk or to do what I'm doing now. And if I go and tell you what you need to do, you're not going to be giving it your all, because it's got to belong to you, man. It's got to come from your heart. Because it's not going to be about the money. It's not going to be about the attention or the fame. People can say it's about attention or fame. Who in the world wants to be known for doing this? I mean, it's hard enough for these guys to come and tell their stories when they hear some of the things they've been accused of, right? It's going to have to come from the heart, and it's going to have to be a passion thing, because sometimes that's all you've got is passion that's keeping you running, dude. That's the gasoline behind the mission, right? And let me tell you something. When your passion starts running low, you're in a dangerous place. And I've gotten there numerous times. I have definitely gotten there numerous times. But it's got to be you, man. What is it that you're good at? Where do you envision yourself? Everybody around the movement usually says the same thing. I don't have the money to get involved, but I got time. How do you, like I said, there's no shortage of ideas. I don't know how to do it, guys. Online fundraisers or whatever. I wish. I got one of the bigger platforms behind these issues, and I'm still sitting here brainstorming myself. I had to go find other things to do outside of the movement just to keep my own lights and water going. I wish we could find some people to strategize behind that. I'm going to tell you, if I had, give me $10 million up against a $60 billion a year industry, watch me give them the biggest black eye they ever had in their life. I am telling you, because what we've done on next to nothing. If I had that, sounds like a lot, but when we say it affects millions, how much, when you break that up per person that's going through it right now, would that amount take? I'm telling you, a black eye like they've never seen before in their life. I dare say we could end it. But in order to do that, I'm going to need Elon Musk. Mr. Elon, can you stop trying to get to Mars for right now and come get behind our movement? Maybe they'll let us do it in Dogecoin. Yeah. But Nathan, we need to mess with politicians' livelihood and let their voters know what the politicians are really standing behind. Show up everywhere they go, and the people that are afraid to stand up themselves, I don't give a crap when anyone thinks to hell with them. You have to get mad. Dude, there is a way to do it. They fear nothing more than losing that position. They fear nothing more than losing that money, that power. And don't kid yourself, guys. A lot of those guys were pawns. They were picked. I even think a current president right now was a pawn. I don't think he actually wanted to run for office. I think he was the best they had in order to get what they wanted. A lot of these guys are selected so the machine can get behind them. I think you got to be really careful saying stuff like that, dude. I mean, everybody knows Cash Jackson right now, and dude, I love Cash. I hate what happened. But there is very hard to speak for Cash right now. Again, learning to crawl before we walk. Learning to walk before we run and run before we fly, man. It's getting back to the basics. I wish, I don't know if you guys see it. I'm trying to figure it out while I'm on the screen with you. I'm not sitting here saying I've got the answers. I'm sitting here just rambling off at the mouth, sometimes trying to find it myself. But I do believe it's going to go back to the very beginning. And just because it's not here right now, it doesn't mean it's not going to come. I've got, like I said, some vision behind 2023, some things coming up. So maybe until then, I need to just wait on that conversation, see what happens. This is some good stuff. We do got some people that believe in us. Elon Musk, richest man in the world, worked harder than 99% of everyone else in the whole of history and still got attacked by ex-wife for playing video games. Oh my God. Yeah, dude. Smart guy. A lot of people don't like him. I find Musk fascinating. But he's going through something similar right now, if you call it alienation. I don't know which letter of the alphabet, which kid it is. That was a joke, Elon. Like, I like you, dude. I want you here. And Tesla is one of the coolest cars I've ever been in my life. I'm not one of those climate change people, but if you've never been in a Tesla, they're pretty fun. Fastest thing I've ever been in my life. But he's going through it too. I was reading up on it, and I wish we could get somebody like that involved. Because if everybody did a little bit, dude, we'd have what's needed in order to be able to fight it. That's gonna be, I think, it, man. I had to ask anything challenge. Just want to make sure anything that oh yeah, Sabrina, it's got to come from the individual. What are you passionate about? What is the area of the movement that strikes your core? I can't, yeah, that's what I'm saying. I can't tell you that. You know, my passion was always music. There was never a point in time in my life when I thought to myself, I want to be a podcaster. Hell, we didn't even know what podcasts were. And just remember that a lot of windshield time in that truck, you know, as a CDL driver, stuck in my head, thinking about the challenges that I was going through as a dad, looking for a podcast that I could hear other men that are going through the situations that I was going through, just so I could know that I'm not alone, because I felt so alone. You know, I felt so alone. And that's where I did it. And the last thing in the freaking world you would have ever told this son of a preacher, rock and roll, rebellious guy he would be doing was being at a political conference. Do you understand how much I hated politics? Anti-establishment? Like, no. The last thing I ever thought. I was good at it. So there might be a calling in front of you guys, and you're going to have to find that out. That's a part of self-discovery. And if you're still a person that's waiting for somebody to tell you who you are, you're not ready yet. You've got to find vision. You've got to have a dream. And in the middle of that vision and dream, you tell yourself, oh, I won't be able to do that. You're right. If in the middle of that vision or that dream, you say it's never going to happen, you're right. It's waiting for the person that says it can, you know? So I'm going to tell you, if you're optimistic and say it's not going to happen and you get involved in it, you might not even need to get started. Have some vision, guys. Dare to dream. Look at what Mr. Martin Luther King did. Serious. I can guarantee you that movement lacked resources too, buddy. It lacked resources. He did with what they had. And what happened when the people started showing up and marching with him? Could you imagine him trying to do that march alone? He showed up. He spoke. He rallied the people. And when they showed up and they did those marches, what happened to him in the end? You're going to go through attacks. You're going to have people that want to shut you up. Could even have the same fate as him, right? But you got to stand for what you believe, man. And when everybody shows up to the dance, that's when it's going to happen. All right, guys, I'm going to go try to get some stuff ready Actually, I'll be on one more show before I take off. Me and Dwayne will be live tomorrow morning, so please show up for it. That'll be my farewell show, and I won't see you again until later on in March. So wish us luck. We need it. We need it. I know what we're going to do. The sad thing is like I say, is as hard as it is to talk to somebody that's lost a family member, a parent, a kid, a sibling, a husband, or something like that. I never would have thought I would say I'm used to it. But there's a part of me that started getting used to doing those. But I can't tell you that it's ever gotten any easier. I know how to get the stories out, but if anything, it's getting harder. Because that's the reality that the news isn't showing you. Right? And yep. All right, guys. I'll see you tomorrow morning. Hey, everybody. Eric Carroll here. Thank you for tuning in to another exciting episode of Dad Talk Today. While we fight for you, we would ask for you to please help fight for us. Like, subscribe to our channel, and ring that bell so you get notifications every time we go live. There's also Super Chats, patreon.com/dadtalktoday, and other ways you can support our channel. Thank you for being here.